All right. All right, here we go. And good evening and welcome to Showtime TV. I'm your host, Omar Rashada. In honor of Black History Month, we're celebrating African Americans and the performing arts. And I have some distinguished guests this evening.
This evening.
Thank you.
I have Sweet Franchon, spoken word artist. I have Ashley S.K. Davis, who is a dancer and an instructor as well. And I have Kym Branch, who's an R&B singer. Ladies, good evening, and thank you for tuning in for tonight's program, being a guest.
Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you.
Great to
All
be
right, now let's
here.
start with Kym. I want each of you ladies just to talk about your history of what you do and how you got involved in the performing arts. Let's start off with Kym.
Okay, I guess hopefully real briefly, my name is Kym Branch. Originally from Philadelphia, been singing as they say since the age of 2 in church and all of that good old stuff. Grew up, started singing professionally in the studios at the age of 15. With some of the Philadelphia's local, celebrities. Did some things with them. Moved on to California in 2007, after, I had kids and went to school and did some things. Been out on the West Coast since then, about 13, 14 years now. Moving forward to, like I shared with him, Las Vegas, just because of the time and what's going on right now, a pandemic that we didn't think that we were going to face. And, just I guess just being here is a blessing, so the opportunities that are being forwarded, I'm definitely taking advantage of it. I've just been one, like you said, I know a young lady named Nicole Butler, who has been an extensive or a very, very influential person in my life and my children while they were growing up, which kind of led us to be in California. So, along with me being an R&B singer, of course, I sing other things as well, all genres pretty much. From that, I've been able to become an author, created a book, released it in June. I have my own clothing brand, which has really pretty much extended from, not just me being a graphic designer of 20 years, but also, being an artist that wants to make a mark in this world and, have reasons and passion behind it. So that's it, I think.
All right. You had a long, nice journey there, all right?
Yeah, it's much more, but yeah, that's the art side of me.
There you go. All right, Sweet Fran, you next. Go on up.
All right,
Tell your
I'm
story.
Sweet
Tell your story.
Franchon. I'm a poet first, author, songwriter, and composer. I'm so glad to just released a single called Lover's Conversation that you can find on all platforms. Just put
Okay.
my name, Franchon, Franchon, and you can find it. I'm so happy about that. That was
You said lovers conversation. I'm sorry.
Lover's Conversation. That was composed and written
Okay.
um, and produced with the late and the great and the fabulous Philip Joseph, um,
Okay.
my artist husband and vocalist, and his wife was so kind to share me in the artwork, share him with me in the art world. Um,
Hmm.
and it's so important that I share that because it's forced me to not hold anything back and to get all of these unfinished projects out. So, like I said, I'm an author, I'm a songwriter, composer, um, performer, executive producer of live shows, artist coach, artist development coach. And I'm just glad to be a mature woman able to, contribute to the art community.
Right. Right.
All right,
Mm.
Ashley S.K. Davis, you next.
Hello, Omar and Lady. It's wonderful to be able to be here with you all. My name is Ashley S.K. Davis. I am a dancer, a choreographer, and a teaching artist in dance and drama. I don't have nearly as many, I don't have any books or anything like that, but I'm very
Right.
thankful to be able to do the work that I do. Um,
Hmm.
most of my choreographic work really focuses on looking at social issues and social justice and looking at movement as a means to address those things.
That's
I've
big.
been
That's
dancing.
big. That's big.
Pretty much my whole life, and so I'm glad that I've been able to take that interest, that hobby, that extracurricular just kind of thing to do and make it into a career. Very pleased to be able to serve as the founder and executive and artistic director for Pieces of a Dream Inc., which is a local dance company here in Wilmington, Delaware. We were founded in 2007, and we've been going strong since then. Last year, 2020 was actually the first year we did not put up any productions at all, and it felt so
Right.
strange.
Weird.
So
Yeah.
Dreams
Yes.
were good, right?
Yes.
but nonetheless, we were able to continue to work. We were able to continue to create. We do also have a training program called Pieces of a Dream Academy of Dance, which is based right off of Lancaster Avenue in Wilmington. And so we are
Okay. Yay.
glad to be able to keep training students, train the next generation of dancers and artists, and even really just the next generation of art people who are appreciative of the arts and appreciative. So
Were you ever connected? I'm sorry. Were you ever connected to CCAC?
yes, I trained at Christina Cultural Arts Center from age 6-ish up through high school graduation. So I
Okay.
actually
No.
seen a
Did
baby.
you ever? You never taught there though, right?
I taught there for about a year after I graduated from college. So I taught
Okay.
there for 2005 through 2006. And
Reason
then
why I'm asking. Reason why I'm asking. Excuse me, is because my children went there. That's
really
why you
nice.
look familiar to me. Um,
Maybe,
Kevin and
maybe.
Kiana Robbins, but they were under Gabby.
Oh, okay, very nice. Yes, I know Miss Gabby. I know Miss
hmm
Gabby.
It looked like I probably seen you. That's why. Yeah.
Right, right.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Very
so,
nice,
so,
very nice.
so I want to ask you, ladies, this pandemic, COVID-19, has really did a damage on the arts. Man, there's been no theater shows, there've been no live shows. Some people had to close their organizations.
hmm
Big cut as a result of COVID-19. So I want to ask you three, starting off with Fran, then Ashley, and Kim. What ways has
hmm
COVID-19 affected your art?
Well, to be frank with you, it hasn't had a negative effect on me because I had already positioned myself to pivot my entire and rebrand my entire business. I had made the decision a year before COVID. But what it has allowed me to is an opportunity to sit down and keep still and to create space for myself mentally, emotionally, and physically so that I can continue to create and grow as an artist. And um, the fortunate part for me is that, I've always had multiple streams of income, so I'm not 100% reliant on my art craft to survive. But like I said, it's been a good self moment for me as an artist and has allowed me the opportunity just to be still, to clear my head, to strategize and structure the business so that I
Right.
can do more teaching and more development with other artists and to start to pour into other artists. So, and it's a great time for me to pivot, and it's also given me the clarity that I needed as far as the next phase of my artistic career.
Right. Okay, Ashley?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, COVID really kind of threw us for a loop as someone who's in dance and also working in education and working in classrooms and working with students. Dance is a social endeavor. Yes, you can
Right.
dance by yourself in your living room, and I am so thankful for so many of the amazing uh, art teachers and choreographers hosting classes and all different things in virtual platforms, but it's nothing like really being in the studio space. And so one big thing is I really missed that and I really craved that. It was wonderful. I'd have learned so many new things about what I can teach online and my process of creating choreography online in my process of teaching and training online. We had to do that with our students at the end of the year. But the other lovely thing that Franchon mentioned is that process of needing to be quiet and sit myself down and kind of allow myself to be in myself and my own thoughts. And so I've been able to, in this past year, I haven't set the choreography on groups of individuals yet in terms of the company, but I have been able to really zoom in and think about what are all the ways in which I would like to respond to a variety of issues, and how can I lean in onto that. I mentioned before, I'm not a writer, but I'm not a writer in college, so I actually do write quite a bit. And so using journaling as kind of a starting process for me for choreography has been really wonderful in this season. So even though it is required a massive shift, it is just that. It's just a shift, and it's just a new space which I'm following and seeing where it guides me. One thing that I really enjoy doing is reconnecting my dancing self in nature. And so at various times, if you were driving by the right park at the right time, you may have seen a random woman dancing by herself in the fishbowl or the sugar bowl pavilion, right by Washington Street Extension, or randomly in some little area in a park. That was me. Allowing nature to speak to me and enjoy that way.
Not to cut you off, but I saw on Facebook, I saw you dancing in the snow. The last snowstorm we had, you were doing cartwheels and spins. And I said, what is she doing? Is that something new? What's going on?
I have been, I was deep in Jingle Jangle season at that point. Also, anybody who knows me knows I was obsessed with Jingle Jangle. I decided earlier this week, in honor of Black History Month, I was going to watch it again. I know Christmas is over, and y'all need to just go ahead and watch it again on with me. I love that movie. I was feeling very excited and inspired by this.
Okay, everybody. I just want to ask everybody, if you're not speaking, if you can mute yourself, because for some reason we get a little echo in the background. Okay, how has the COVID-19 Don Rand's being a singer, if affected at all?
I'm sorry, to me?
Yeah, Kimberly, you up next.
Okay. One thing I do like is, with Franchon and Ashley, for me, it's not just about that one thing. I've been blessed during this pandemic to have multiple streams of income. Like I said, there's more. I'm into real estate, and I'm a notary in 2 states. So, that kind of keeps me busy as well. So it's been a blessing. Then with the clothing brand. So it's really about the entrepreneurship too. It's really about that, because with the pandemic going on and us not really seeing the funds that we would normally see on a regular basis, I think that it's a great thing, that, individuals like ourselves have already established some other things, which apparently was smart, because we didn't know what was coming, so I think that that's really, really what has kept me, everybody else, and my brand started October of 2019. And I guess, everybody was getting, a little extra money, and it just so happened, at that time I was able to come back to Philly and, back out here on the West Coast and just, sell clothing from my brand, and that's a blessing, of course, because I want to see that flourish. But that was the thing. Like these past few months, it's been the clothing brand, the notaries. Singing right now is just something that I still love to do. If I'm getting paid for it, that's fine. But right now, I'm also using it as, like I said, out here as an opportunity to open some doors while things are, slightly going on. Because one thing open up, I want to be on the bills. So that's how that's going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Prior to this pandemic, I always wanted to do this on a full-time basis. Performing artist. I want to start off with Franchon, then Ashley, then Kimberly. Have any of you when you said to yourself, this is what I want to do, have any three of you ever decided or come to the conclusion that I want to be an artist on a full-time basis? I don't want no other jobs. All I want to do is just focus on the arts. Fran,
Absolutely. In fact, I've had moments in my career where I was doing it full time,
okay, okay,
and to be frank with you, I'm grateful that my daughter is being allowed to be an artist and designer early. Like she's doing it full time during the pandemic at age 27. And to be frank with you, yes, right? And that's all I ever wanted for my children is for if they had decided to take the artist or entrepreneurial route, that they can hit their mark sooner and support them at a younger age. You got to understand, I didn't come into even understanding that my art could be a full-time revenue generating thing until I was in my late 30s.
okay,
you know so at that time, I had already established a certain lifestyle for myself, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. And there's two things sides of this for me, in that I've even learned during this pandemic, is that I got to create the products and content. And when I was stressed about money, I couldn't do it. I couldn't create. So my personal decision was to go back to work, but make sure it's only a job that I love, that it still allows my heart to be open so that I can create. So I do work for the community that I love to do. So
mhm,
it's actually an inspiration to my creative work. It relieves the burden of the fiscal burden for me so that I can create, and I'm that can support other artists with money. Like I can pay for, if I need a song or someone's craft, I can pay them for it because I want to be paid for my craft, right?
right,
So, yes, the long and the short of it is, of course, I desire to do it full time, but I had to make life decisions and I had to be honest with myself on where my tolerance lied. And so I say this to entrepreneur or artists and artists who want to do it full time. It's entrepreneurial. It takes you handling your art like it's the business and creating products and wares and services that you can monetize, period, and point blank. And the only way to get people to respect that is to be very clear about your product and service line. You have to handle it accordingly. Failure to write your numbers out in a business plan and talk about how many gigs you need, how many shirts you got to sell, how much you got to do to sustain yourself in a business, you're doing yourself a disservice. And being a struggling or a starving artist is not cute. It's nothing sexy about it at all. So you have to handle your art like a business and then respect it as such, give it love as such, and then other people will pay you for that so that you can do it full time. And that's my advice to those who want to do it full time, have the desire, the time to do it full time. You got to put in the work. You cannot say, I want to be a singer, I want to be, and not working on that craft every day. My daughter gets up at 9 o'clock every day. There's no one to answer to but her. She gets up in the morning at 9 o'clock every day and works her day from 9 to 6 or whatever. The good news is she gets to create her hours as she sees fit, but she puts in the work. She doesn't presume that she's going to be able to monetize this just on her creative spirit alone. So I just want to share that, and I want all artists to be able to do it full time should they desire, but they have to be very realistic that it's not just about being the creative and artistic. There's a business, there's a if you don't get a manager, but don't get a manager too soon, get someone to help you handle your business affairs, but you be the creative director of the vision. But it takes all of that. It's not one or the other. It takes all of that to do it full time.
right. Excellent. Kicking gems, kicking gems. All right, Ashley, you next.
I just want to reiterate and underline and highlight and write in bold one thing that Franchon just mentioned. People should pay artists for their work, period. Hard stop. I can't tell you how many times I've been offered a job or offered a gig, and the payment, intended payment, was exposure. Exposure is wonderful. That is great. But at some levels, I don't necessarily need I don't necessarily need exposure for a small venue. Exposure at the Grammys is a different level of exposure because then that flips into dollars. But exposure does not pay my mortgage. When my children were younger, it did not pay for daycare. It does not buy groceries. And I think that for artists, the thing that's very hard for us is we're doing something that we truly love and we truly value. And so for me, dance, like I said, I'm gonna be outside dancing in the park somewhere. Any little person who comes to me who is interested in learning, and I say little person at and we don't just teach children, anyone. I have adults here that take classes just for the joy of it, and I want to be able to spread that joy of movement. But at the same time, I still have to remember within myself, oh, but I need to be able to buy gas to drive back and forth to this studio. Oh, but
Right.
I need to also have my various business expenses covered. And so, as you're thinking about how you would like to engage artists, these are for people who do not consider themselves to be working artists. As you're thinking about how you would like to engage artists, one of the best things that you can do is hire an artist to do their artwork. And don't expect artists to do their artwork and do the thing that they do to make money and to earn a living for free. In addition to that, I've been very fortunate in that I was able to flip my working artist career. I began this career as a full-time working artist at age 24, which this was not part of my plan. I had every intention of going to law school, and then after that, going to get my doctor in philosophy. But what happens is with artists, the pathway is not a straight path. It is circuitous, it twists and turns. And so you need to, if this is something that you're feeling, if this is something that feels right in your heart and in your spirit, you need to listen to those little whispers that will say, we'll try this, we'll try that, we'll try this. Because all of those small little whispers, and not at the time, it seemed like detours. But what I've understood them now in retrospect to see, they were winnowing me closer and closer and closer and closer towards my end goal the entire time in ways that I would have never gathered, would have never expected. But the big piece was I said yes. So one of the biggest things for me was becoming a teaching artist, and I use that term. It's slightly different from being just a dancer, I didn't want to say it like that. It's a little bit different from being a dancer or a choreographer, and I do not mean to minimalize the work that dancers who do dance. I don't mean to minimalize the work that they do. I don't mean to minimalize the work that choreographers do. I don't mean to minimalize the work that dancers who teach in a studio space or in an academic setting do. But what I do when I say the word teaching artist is I try to teach people, give them the opportunity to learn about dance and to learn about movement and also discover the movement creativity that resides within themselves. So as a teaching artist, it's someone who loves the art form and really works hard to help other people understand and enjoy that love for the art form. When I work with you, I might not, I'm doing a session this weekend with the Delaware Historical Society. So we're not going to be in that workshop. We are not intending to create the next Judith Jamison or the next Alvin Ailey. What our goal is rather is to help any individual say, well, you know what? I hadn't really considered myself to be a dancer, but I do this little movement all the time with my arm, and I can take that little movement, and that's my little dance that I did. And that's the way that I let joy out of my body today. And so we want to, my goal as a teaching artist is kind of share that. And in the process of learning that piece, I've kind of leaned in and realized, oh, that's the thing that I really love to do. And I think even my choreography is still very much so tied into where are those little moments that you as an audience member, anyone who is there, anyone who is witnessing and sharing that space with me, where are the spaces where you are moving? Where are the spaces where you are a dancer? And so that's the joyous piece for me. But like I said, I only came to it by all these small little twists and turns and all these little moments to say yes. If anyone is thinking about the arts, as a career path, it is possible. It is possible. It is possible. There are many naysayers, but you can look around you and you can see so many people who are doing it, who are working as working artists. The starving artist, Franchon said, is not cute. It's not. Let's remove that from our from our vocabulary, from our mind space. It's not something to honor and be impressed with. People need to eat. Artists need to eat. And the world needs art. As we can see from the pandemic itself, what did everybody do? They were binge watching Netflix. They were on Instagram watching free concerts. We were on Facebook. Everybody was streaming things live. DJ D Nice got everybody dancing through a party. The way that we made it through, especially those early months when folks were really, really quarantined, the way that we made it through was through the artistic process. And because the world needs art in order to just be able to function and not lose all little bits of pieces of ourselves, we need to acknowledge that. We need to compensate artists for their work.
Let me ask you a follow-up question, Ashley.
Sure.
The transition from being a student to a teacher, was it smooth or was it difficult? Did it feel strange? What was the experience?
Well, the hardest thing for me, I started as an assistant teacher when I was in middle school. So I have been a space of semi-authority in classrooms for many, many years. But when I started teaching, after graduating from college, I was 22. Some of the students that I was teaching were 16. So I was closer in age to some of my students than I was to their parents. In the case for when I was teaching at Christina Cultural Arts Center, like I said, I was fresh out of college. And so some of the parents there remembered when I graduated from high school. And so the biggest shift for me was really kind of training myself to understand that I need to have an interaction. It's almost that process I needed to separate my Ashley self, my individual personality. I need to create a layer of, in the same way that when you walk into an office, you have to create not a wall of professionalism, but you have to present your professional self when you're going into certain settings. So I had to be my teaching self. And I needed to resist the urge to call the parents of my students Miss such and such or Mr. so and so, because that's how it was. People who are older than you defer to them and you speak to them with a title. And so that was kind of the hardest thing for me. For many of the people that I'd worked with, that I studied under as a student, finally, by the time I was like 25, they were like, if you keep calling me Miss such and such or Mr. so-and-so, we're gonna fight. And I was like, okay, then that's fine. But it is a transition, but it's easier in some spaces. When I walked into a space and they didn't have any history of me, this is what I'm doing. Honestly, the hardest part for me was having like professional clothes when everything I needed to wear at any given day was really like sweatpants and a t-shirt, because I needed to be able to roll around on the floor. So I spent a lot of time finding really nice sweatpants and t-shirts and sneakers, so I would look professional, even with my my moving and rolling clothes on. This was before everyone wore leggings everywhere.
Right. Okay, Kimberly, I guess you in terms of doing this on a full-time basis, if I stand corrected.
Yeah, but I can honestly say that I really don't have much to say. Franchon and Ashley, they kind of pretty much covered it. Yeah, I applaud you, ladies, because it really is what it is. Do we have a desire to, do our arts full time? Most of the time, yes, we do. And I always had. And I tell everybody, if I could do nothing but just sing, if I could just sing, I wouldn't do anything else if that's all I needed to do. So, but at the same time, I guess God knows as well that this is not the whole realistic lifestyle for us, that we have to have, like you said in the beginning, Franchon, multiple streams of income. And I totally believe in that. And I've always been taught that as well. So that's why I move the way that I do move, so for the most part, yes, my life is a I'm a full-time entrepreneur. Really, I'm a full-time entrepreneur, but at the same time, I'm very smart, and I know to use wisdom to say, hey, well, if I need to get, a job, And it used to be like, okay, well, I just need to get, make these dollars. But I soon came to the conclusion, like you did, Franchon, that it has to be something that I enjoy doing that can go along with everything else that I am doing. And I made that decision just a couple of years ago, not too long ago, but that's why I said I totally agree. I totally feel you. That's me all day. That is me all day. I refuse to be stressed out, especially nowadays. I refuse to be stressed out. So even with, Ashley, like you were talking about, the little twists and turns. We've all had twists and turns, and I've had a lot of twists and turns moving, living and growing up in Philadelphia, moving to Delaware, moving to California, and now moving on to where I am now. But understand this situation that I'm in right now is a good one, only because of the resources that I have being here in Vegas. But I'm here 5 times since the summertime, since Labor Day. And my stays have been extensive, and it's only because, not just because I love Vegas, I'm not a big gambler or anything like that, but it's because I know what's calling me. So therefore, I have to take the risk and do the research. And it just so happens that, with the pandemic being and not a lot, I live right across the street from Paramount Studios in LA. So, I'm right there in Hollywood, but there's nothing going on there. And I'm not afraid to say that there is nothing going on in Los Angeles. Okay. I have a few notaries to do when I get back, but that's the other stream of income, which is, which serves me well, but I know that I'm looking for a bigger goal. I'm getting my notary and my real estate, situation here too, because I want it all to work together. It's time to move on. It's time to move on to bigger and better things, and what we all know that God has called us to do and what he has in store for us in our each individual lives. My children are grown. Could I go another round? Probably. We'll see what God says. But right about now, I am focusing on this time that he gave me to redeem and recapture everything that I gave for 20-something years of my life to my children. Because it wasn't just about me when I came to California. They were on Nickelodeon. I was a set mom. They was on Snoop's football league. I was a cheerleading football mom. They went to Hollywood High. They did all of that stuff. And what I love about them is that my son, he chose to stay out here and get into productions after football didn't work out for him. But, I love the fact that the whole music thing, it came easy because it was always in him. So I to see that, so now he's doing well and on different production teams and trying to get out there and, have DJ'd in a lot of clubs in Hollywood, previously. My daughter, she decided, and she said, I'm going back to Philly. So she got a whole family, and a baby girl that's almost 2 that I simply adore. And every time I go there, that's my ride or die, so everybody's life is different, but I can totally connect with what both of you ladies are saying, like heartfelt, like it's like, yes, this is what it needs to be. Do we want this? Yeah, but is it realistic? It's only realistic for some, very few, and it's okay because these are other things that we love. These are other things that we love, and having multiple streams of income is what God desires for us. So okay. Be happy.
Once again, this is a Black History Month special. For those who just tuning in, we're talking about acting arts. All 3 of you have children. Kimberly made mention of her daughter used to taking dance class, and her son's in production. Ashley, I believe your daughter is a dancer. Sweet Franchon said her daughter's in clothing. I believe her daughter was also in a model in a magazine. We'll get back to Fran, but I want to start off with Kimberly this time. What was it like seeing your kids grow up in the arts, seeing your daughters dance, and now your son's in production? So they're an image of their mothers. What is that experience like?
Well, I was always the ghetto mom in the crowd that be standing up yelling, "That's my daughter! Yeah, that's my." Yeah, that would be me. Yeah, that was me. Had no problem. Because it was never about me. Once you have children, like your heart is like, okay, all right, we doing this is about them. It's really about them. Yes, if we're artistic, I mean, it's still in us. That's why I'm so grateful for the time that I have now. But do I regret those years where I had to focus on them? And no, because not only did they want to be involved, because they wanted to be involved, I wanted them to be involved. So I mean, with that, yeah. My daughter, she doesn't dance anymore, but now she wants her daughter to dance and act and model and this and that, So I'm like, okay, let's go. We going another round? Let's go.
Right, that's
So,
awesome. That is awesome.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my children are, my son is, he'll be 16 in 2 weeks. He has had a circuitous. His real thing is sports. That has been his consistent thing. He loves sports, but he loves to talk about sports. So he loves to watch sports. He can have any conversation about any team, any sport around the world, and he can talk to you about it. I remember specifically at one point when he was 3, having a real in-depth conversation with a friend, a grown man friend of one of my cousins. They spent about 20 minutes talking about some football game when he was in preschool, pre-K 4. So that year right before he went to kindergarten, he's a huge Eagles fan. He actually told me today is the 3-year anniversary from when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Don't fact check me on that, because that's just what he said. If it's wrong, it wasn't my memory, it's his memory. But his preschool teacher was a Giants fan, and so she would bring in the newspaper whenever they had a game and say, "Hi, Carter, here, read this." He was reading well at that time, so he would read the headlines and then argue with her about the scores and whatnot. So even though that has been his love, and that's consistently been his focus, he has always had an experience in the arts. He took dance class from the time he was 2 up through 5. He stopped for a while, and then he came back again from about 7 to 10. And then he stopped again, which is fine. I think one of the things that as parents we have to remember is that we want to give children space to discover what they're interested in and what they love. And if the thing that they love aligns with what you love, great. And if the thing that they love does not align with what you love, great. Continue to find a way to support your children. Now his artistic stuff is amazing. He plays a trombone. He plays trombone with his band in school, and so that's kind of how he does it. But he can still sit down. He'll sit down and watch shows with me, and he is very very familiar with all things dance. He still remembers most of the terminology, so he's right there with it. My daughter is 8 years old, and she is definitely running along behind me in my footsteps. She loves to dance. She's in the dance space all the time. And the hard part with that is also helping her to still understand you get to do it your own way as well. Like, yes, we're in a space, and in this space at Pieces of a Dream, mommy is in charge, but you still need to figure out what you have to be your own person. You have to be your own best dancer for yourself. And as long as you're finding joy in it, let's keep doing it. And as long as you're loving it, let's keep loving it. Let's keep finding different ways. I don't want you to be Ashley 2.0. I want you to be yourself, one and only, the first of her name. So you don't need to be me again. You need to be you now. And I think that's the challenge, but that's also the joy. And so I love for both of them, really watching them kind of come into themselves. And I look forward to seeing where 10 years from now, my son will be, he'll be 26 and my daughter will be 18. It's like, okay, you're out of college? Are you in a career? What are you doing? Are you still in sports? Is that still a thing for you? For my daughter, it's like, okay, are we applying for conservatories? Or are we applying for, or do we decide we're completely done with it and we're going to go to med school? And either way, all right, great. For your daughter, Kym, I would certainly suggest, I always like to plug for adult dance classes. Adults who are out there, you used to dance, you love to dance, keep dancing. I love teaching my adult dance classes. It's a chance for me to relax, unwind, and let my hair down.
Girl, I'm looking for a choreographer. Okay, I'm not playing. I'm gonna get back to it.
Yes.
Virtual choreographer. What we do? Yeah. Like for
Absolutely.
real, like people think I'm playing. I'm ready for this next phase of myself to just jump out. Like, okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, you know, for adults who are out there, you're watching and it's like, oh, I used to dance years ago. That's fine. We love having y'all in class. You'll be the star of the adult dance class. It's
Right.
so you know if years from now that's Kennedy's relationship with dance, if she's not doing it full time and instead she is the star of somebody's jazz class at a
Right.
recreational studio somewhere, and if it's bringing her joy, then that's all I ask for.
Definitely. Hey, Fran, we were just talking about your children being involved with the arts and talk about how that brings a smile to your face. You just mentioned your daughter; she was into clothing designing, and also I remember you sharing on Facebook that she was a model. She was modeling for a magazine, if I stand corrected. So, when you see your daughter doing modeling or doing her clothing line, what goes through your mind?
Well, first of all, I just give thanks that she's able, as I mentioned earlier, to do it full time. Um, and we've had those hard conversations like, well, you got some momentum. What you going to do with it? You going to go back and get a job? You going to make this work? And she's decided to make it work. She's actually a designer and a constructor of her own clothes. So she does everything from sourcing, sometimes even designing her textiles,
Mhm.
to making every item individually, creating it, designing it, and making it. And her clothing, she's known best for her quality of construction, the quality of the garment. So she's really, she's got a great price point, that people are buying, and she has sold out. She has launched lines and sold out in 13 minutes. So we're thankful for that. Right? And so, it's a growing. And so now she's moving from being a solopreneur to actually having, what does my staff look like? Who do I need to support me so I can continue to scale my business? So we're glad about
Hmm.
that. And as she's
What's the name of her company?
Asata Maze, ASAT,
ASATA.
MAISE.
MAISE. Is that one word?
Yes.
Okay.
So
ASATAMAISE.
yeah,
All
Asata
right, y'all.
Maze.
You heard that? Okay.
And my son, although he's not been a creative like Ashley's son, he's been more into sports and football,
Right.
but he's always been into Black history. So he started, and he's always been into who are our legends that are not recognized outside artists,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Malcolm X's, and who else do we consider our legends? So he created a clothing line called Living Legends. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful for that because it's about the story. It's about the story behind that person's life that he uses. And then, my granddaughter who's 6, she's a visual artist. She paints, she dances, she
Mm-hmm.
tries to
Mm-hmm.
sing. And somebody
Right.
had told her that you ain't got to be a natural singer. You can train to sing. So you got her out here trying to sing. And I have been saying that in this house we be artists and entrepreneurs, and I'm grateful that I've been able to support them in their dreams and visions, and that I just had a vision when Ashley was sharing earlier. I recall I had never played an instrument before, sister from the hood, never played an instrument, never knew art was a thing. I appreciate art, I guess, through TV and film, but never understood it from being an artist. And I remember that my music teacher knew there was something in me. And it was weird because he was the first white male that ever recognized anything in me, right? It was always the Black teachers, the Black female teachers who always said, oh, something about that girl, right? But he put an oboe in my hand. And most people don't know it's a double reed instrument. It's one of the hardest instruments to play. Of course, I know I never played anything before.
Right.
Natural at it. By the time I was in middle school, I was playing in quintets, um, playing Bach and Beethoven and all this stuff. And I remember we had this event, like an annual thing at the end of the year. I created a dance with me and my best friends, and we danced. I went from dancing, changing. We did Fame, Gonna Live Forever, right? I did Fame, then I ran, I changed, I went back, I played the quintet, then I went back, and I did this whole thing in the 8th grade. And I didn't even know that it ends up. And so, like, those whispers were coming. And then I was going to go to Howard University, but I didn't make it there because I was ill. But the point is, it's always been in me. And then, so, life happens. You kind of forget your childhood life a little bit. And then at 30 something years old, 40 years old, I create this production called Soul Opera that has what? Live music, dancing. I'm performing it, directing it, writing it, producing it, doing the same things I did in 8th grade, didn't even know. So it's in you, and you find a way, you find a way to do it. And, even now, as I pivot, I'm it's a way. I definitely, people can look forward to some creations but I'm trying to get the old stuff out. I have work that I have books I have written, I have music that I've written and produced and recorded that I haven't put out for distribution yet. So I'm sharing that to say that all those artists, including my children, I try to push them. Whatever, you got stuff that might be old to you, but the public hasn't seen it.
Right.
Let's look at that and see how we can package that and see, and be okay with the timing of it. Like, be okay if you wrote that or you created that a year or two ago and it didn't go anywhere. But now it's coming back and it's talking to you, it's speaking to you again, and it wants to be out and seen. Be okay with that. Nobody's like, well, it's only old to you.
Right.
I agree. I
got poems. I get gigs all the time through Gig Salad, and I'm like, okay, they want a poem. I've already created something on that.
Right.
That I've never shared publicly. It's not in a book nowhere, and I use it, right? So keep creating. Be okay. I tell my kids, keep creating. Be okay with pivoting. Pivot and move. It's okay, and be open to your own spirit journey. Be open to that. And as a parent, it might not look like what I think it should look like.
Right.
But I got to encourage them to hear their own whisper, to be able to dance their own dance in this universe, and to be able to be confident in that I can do what I love. And I can find a way, and allow the ancestors in spirit to help them, and be okay with asking. And guess what? If you see something, I saw something the other day and I told somebody, well, somebody's already doing it. That's just, in the business world, that's called market proof, right? It proves that you can do it. As Ashley said earlier. So be okay. Find virtual mentors. I teach my daughter, find somebody, a business that reminds you of you, and go look and see what they're doing well that you like. Teach my son, okay, you like that. Now what do you want to do with it? Like, tell my granddaughter, go ahead and try. And I'll just share with this last story. This is one of my favorite stories. My granddaughter is 6 years old, and one day she had been selling it in the summertime, and she had earned a certain amount of money, had this money, lasted her for 6 months or so. Well, in December, she was a little feeling some kind of way because she didn't have that much money left. I said, well, what you gonna do about it? I wake up, she wakes up before me. She got the whole dining room table full of paintings where she been up painting all morning. So I'm like, all right, let me fix you breakfast, get dressed. She said, well, can I go outside? And so I'm like, well, it's early, nobody's here. It's not summertime, but I want to go outside and sell my paintings. She made me bring her breakfast outside. She sat outside the house, and when people walked by, she said, hi, I'm Zora. Would you like to buy one of my paintings? And by noon, she went out about 10. By noon, she had made, I think it was like $40. And she was cool with that. She's like, okay, now I can play and go to the park. So I'm saying that to her, we can all learn from that, right? I'm like, well, dang, she could go make $80 with her art in 2 hours, and so can I, right? So I'm just sharing that. I hope that inspires somebody that if a 6-year-old baby can do it, honey, you can.
From the mouths of babes,
And she told me I ain't never being broke. She told me I ain't doing it.
She a hustler. She a hustler.
That she can do it with her art, though. Imagine the confidence that your child would have. if your child's a singer, if your child's a dancer,
Mhm.
the confidence we would have had if we were encouraged to made money with our craft at 6 years old.
Mhm, mhm.
It just
But
built.
you know what? They also watch their parents. I got to give kudos to the parents as well, because I believe had they not watched us, they wouldn't be able to move the way that they move. And they think even more quickly, like you said, being six, being, 20, how old is your daughter? 18?
27.
20s, being that age or whatever, like, and your daughter as well, Ashley, they think quicker. Yeah, we wish we could have moved that fast or whatever, but we were in another time, whatever, and that's what happened. But God still gave us those tools that we needed to invest in them, where they didn't think that they was picking up stuff, but they got it,
They
even
got it.
as young as 6, like you said. So I applaud everybody. I'm sorry.
I'd love to just circle back to something else you mentioned, Franchon, about as parents and just trying to make sure you support your children. I need to just take a moment and shout out my mother, Paulette Moore, because she's always my biggest cheerleader. She really is. Anytime we're in something together, someone's, well, have you met my daughter? She can do that. She does dance and she does this and she does that and she does this. There are times when we'll be out somewhere in public and I will find that she has a stack of flyers for whatever upcoming thing I have in her purse. She'll have them and my business cards before I have them out and ready to go. And so she has been consistently my biggest cheerleader, even when and I think that I know for a fact that is part of the reason why I was able to do what I did when I did it. When I was 24, my son was 2 years old. And so needing to I for real needed that support. I needed that support in terms of basics, in terms of childcare, and I also needed support because I was still living at home at that time as well. And so I think that I cannot me getting a regular job would have made a lot of things easier financially. But mommy saw that there was something else that was really pulling me. And she said,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm in a space. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and ride with it. You do the work you need to do, but I am here and I will help you and I'll support you. And that's consistent. And I
But she
think,
supported you because you did the work. So if you see a child's
yes,
an artist and
yes,
creative and they're doing the work, support them. And if they're not, you got
yes.
to teach them that it's not just all about being on stage, right? You can tell my
Oh, no,
singers
yes,
all the
yes,
time.
yes.
I mean, I know you just want to get up there and sing, but it's a whole lot that has to happen before that. It's like sex. It's a whole lot that got to happen before we get to this moment, right?
Yes.
And but that's when it becomes you get to experience heaven when you do all this work and you get there and then so that's what if we can share anything that I may have never shared with artists before and creators before, that's it. Work, and you get to have those, what I call those creative orgasms over and over again.
Well, Fran, you mentioned the word legend earlier. Last week we lost an icon, a legend, Miss Cicely Tyson. She's one of the greatest actresses in the whole wide world. So during this Black History Month special, do any relatives has anything to say about Miss Cicely Tyson?
Well, I could just briefly say, and I know we all agree that I love I love just seeing her and the way that she moved. I wasn't, that fan that watched every movie that she played in, but I know that she was definitely an icon. And just, seeing one or two movies or something that she was in, from the time that she was younger up until this point, has said the same thing about her, just being, someone that we should want to be like. Just her poise, just her flow, like, and so, I mean, that's really what I got from it. Yes, we definitely, did lose an icon, but I'm sure that, God is well pleased, and we are as well.
And if I may reiterate or just kind of expand on that, I think the other thing that Mother Cicely really showed us is that you can use your platform. It doesn't matter if you are just an actor. You get to use your platform to speak up against things that are wrong and speak up for things that are right. And so as I think about her work, I think not only about her amazing legacy in terms of theater and performing arts, but I also think about the legacy she left behind is in terms of artists using their platform to speak out against injustice, to call a thing what it is, and to advocate for better, to advocate for more, to advocate for society, for really for America to become or to walk ever closer towards the ideals on which we are founded. And so when I think about her work, I really also I consider all of her activism and her social work as part of her amazing canon, right along with her work on Broadway and in live theater and her film, her her full film catalog. There's also that piece of it, which, for again, for me and for the work that I do, that's a piece that's quite inspiring.
Right. You got anything, Fran? You're muted.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
Ashley really hit it all on the nose, and as Mother Cicely, as well as Mother Ruby D, and there's been so many others who set the blueprint for us, that yes, we can use our voice, we can use our platform. I've been fortunate enough to use my platform to, speak about the spiritual evolution and being able to be okay, uh to stand up for, like she said, what you think is right. um there's so many things that there's so many things that need healing in this world, and the fortunate part is that being an artist and a creative, we get to use that to do our little, contribution to the overall healing of the universe. And it's just, and Mother Cicely and all those who we've lost in this last year have really proven and shown us that, you gotta do the work and don't take it to the grave. It's so many untold stories and so much talent that went to the grave because we didn't do it. Think of if Minnie Riperton had not done the work she did and had passed at 33 years old, and thought she could wait. And if she had waited, so you got to do the work and use the examples that are our ancestors and call on them. The blessing is we can call on Mother Cicely right now, and when we need that guidance and that strength and that grace, you know, we can call on her spirit to guide us. So that's the blessing of it, and we thank her for her legacy.
All right. Oh, Fran, I want to stay with you on the same note, the same line. I want to ask you three. Who are some of the African American performing artists that you came to admire?
Child, you couldn't tell me I wasn't Debbie Allen back in the day. Right? And can't dance and lick, but I just knew I was like her little feisty self, right? You couldn't tell me I wasn't her daughter in my mind, right? But there's it's numerous the list. I'm a big film girl, so Bill Duke is my favorite. Spike Lee,
Oh yeah.
They have been inspirations to me in my writing, and really even now, and I watch them a lot to inspire me. How am I, you know, I want my stage play to be more like a film versus what the traditional play is. So I watch how they move and how they integrate humor and poetry and literature and art into their work. But that's just off the top of my head. But Maurice White, Earth, Wind and Fire, one of my favorite songwriter ever, and Stevie Wonder. Even now, and I'm inspired by some of the younger artists. I love it's a group that my daughter has me listen to, but I love that they have a sense of freedom in their expression, so I get inspired by my local artists all the time. I love to be able, when I can, I'm like, oh, I can't make it, but I'll buy a ticket. I love, because I'm inspired by, I'm inspired that Ashley has a building that she's been able to hold on to in a studio. That's a big deal.
Yes,
Like
it
that's a huge deal. And I don't take any of it for granted. So when anybody's having a little fundraiser or whatever, I do my best to contribute because it's a big deal to continue to work. So I'm inspired. I was inspired by Phil. Phil was an amazing artist and songwriter, and left us prematurely, but he still inspires me, you know, now. Like I can hear his voice telling me what to do and how to get it done, you know, how to count that beat so I can compose that music, you know. Um, so I can't begin to tell you the list. I can't even begin, you know, that's just a short,
Right.
quick off the top of my head. But you know, I'm inspired by you, Omar. You've been in the game, you've been doing this and consistent, you pivot. Like you didn't, you know, okay, I'm not in the studio, I'm gonna do it this way. You've been doing this for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal. You've been giving us a platform for 20 years. And you never forget us. Like you always reach back and ask any of us to come on your show. And you know, I applaud you for it and I appreciate you. And I want to say that
Thank you.
publicly right now, you know, and that
Okay.
because
I
none of
appreciate
this
it.
is promise and I don't take any of it for granted at all.
All right. Thank you. All right, Kimberly, you next. Oh, Kim, I'm sorry, Kim. I don't know if you can buy Kimberly. You're muted. There you
Yeah, I
go.
had to get out of that. Yeah, I heard you call me Kimberly a couple of times. I'm gonna let you have it. I'm
Oh,
gonna let
okay.
you. I used to have a problem with people calling me Kimberly
Okay.
because I thought it was so, excuse me, y'all, to my white friends, I thought it was so white. But when I started embracing it eventually, you know, as I moved into the corporate field and wanted to be considered a professional, but, you know, the Kim is always going to be, like, in short, you know, my stage name, the KYM part of it. My screen that went out for a second, so I believe you're asking about those that we've been inspired by.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I can remember, of course, well, coming up maybe about the age of 9, I started really being interested in, you know, like, Mom, I want to be a gospel singer, you know, this, that, and the other. So I did a lot of that. But I remember coming into my late elementary, high school years, where I started doing a lot of music by Whitney Houston, Patti LaBelle, Regina Bell, Phyllis Hyman, who else? And then you had, you know, people coming out, Mariah Carey, Mary J. Blige, Faith Evans. So that was kind of like my, you know, my little, you know, journey, you know, as far as who inspired me. I was always the kind of person too, and I remember in high school where songs would come out and I would actually like imitate the songs, like word for word, like how everybody sang it and all of that stuff. So I just laugh at myself now because like when songs like We Are the World come on, I know how everybody sing it. So, so that, you know, those things are kind of funny to me. But yeah, those were my inspirations. Today, I still have people like, I would say, Missy Elliott, Alicia Keys. Reason being that I've been picking up and putting down the keyboard for years. And that's one of my goals, not only to get a choreographer, but spend this year on like working those other skills, you know, like really playing, you know, because with that, you know, I want to play some things for myself, but then I also have always admired Missy Elliott, you know, the producer, the legend. Okay. You know, some people probably be like, oh, well, you're not really into, you know, her stuff or whatever. Yes, I am. Just because I sing R&B, gospel, whatever, I am a hip hop head, like as it relates to, you know, just the movement and music and you know, tracks, and like I'm a diehard or whatever. If you ever follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you might see me driving out here and I'm having a whole party by myself. So I also applaud her because of even where she is now. You know, I remember when she first came out, but you know, she's a little bit older than me, you know, at this point, but that has not stopped her. That has not stopped her creativity. She is bomb. She is in a class by herself. And today, that's who my inspiration is. And I want her to wear my clothes. So.
All right.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ashley.
So, Franchon, I love the fact that you started because of course, I love her. I used to wake up early in the morning. They used to show reruns of Fame
Oh,
and
yeah.
at like 5 o'clock in the morning on, I don't know what channel, when I was in high school. And I would wake up at 5 to go downstairs and watch an episode of Fame before I would go to school. And then just recently, it happened a couple of years ago, but they did the Ebony cover, like who's on the Ebony cover of the year and month you were born, and Miss Allen, it was the cover for my birth year and month on Ebony. So I was super excited when I found that. So definitely her. I certainly have to give recognition to Judy Jamison, who was the muse for Mr. Ailey, for Alvin Ailey, and she was one of his first company members in Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and served as the artistic director for many, many years. And she's since moved on, and they have a new artistic director, but she still is, as a performer, as a choreographer, as the artistic director of a dance organization who is, known around the world. There's so many things that I notice and I admire about her and her work. In a kind of non-dance space, I also really think about like Nina Simone. I was introduced to Nina Simone through dance. There was a choreographer, Miss Faye Snow, had choreographed a piece to 4 women, and there were some other girls who were my age that were performing it when I was in high school, and I was like, what is this? And I remember I rushed home and I was telling my mother about it. She was like, oh yes, that's one of my favorite artists. So Nina Simone, just her voice. I love an artist who's an activist. I really do. And so that always just kind of draws me in. And so I think about her work as really pivotal and also really shaping for me and my growth, not only as an artist, but really as a little Black girl growing into a Black woman. She was, as I think about my teenage years, I really think about Nina Simone and her discography. And then along those same lines, I think of Toni Morrison. I love her work. I've read everything that she has written. I have done so many studies I've rewritten different papers about Beloved so many different times. But I love, again, the way that she leans in on what I love about Miss Morrison is she is unapologetically a Black woman. And, in a space where, if 2020 taught us nothing else, it really showed us the ways in which, this is who I am, and I'm going to lean into that. I called it my ascendance. And basically it just meant that the level of unfiltered, I thought I
agree.
By the time I was 60, I went ahead and just did it now.
Can I say I agree? I'm going to be who I'm going to be right now. This is who I am. What we doing? For real. What we doing?
It's a farce for me to go into a space and to assume that anyone sees me as anything other than a Black woman. I know I'm a Black woman, and you know I'm a Black woman, and that's okay. And this Black woman self, I bring things to it. I bring many years of having a perm as a child. I bring many years of sitting in the back of a church with a slip and gloves on. My grandmother would have been devastated if I walked in there with a pair of pants. I bring many years of, I still bring with me, I call everybody, my first impulse is still to call everybody who I think might be 6 years older than me.
Yes, I do the same thing.
I bring with me
I do the
my
same.
Black woman self, and that's okay, and that's good, and that is authentic, and it's better for
that's respect
to walk around in our real skin than to try to wear a mask and to try to pretend. Now, that's not to say to not be courteous. It's not to say to be unkind. It's not to say to be hurtful to anyone.
Right.
But I think it's really important especially for Black girls, to be able to say, yes, this is who I am, and it's great, and for that to be affirmed by the community and the greater world at large. And so I think when I think of those artists specifically, I think about the ways in which they needed, not that they needed to be affirmed, but they were ready. They knew who they were for themselves, and then the world needed to catch up and realize, oh, yeah, that is dope. That is good.
That is dope. That is good.
Okay, ladies.
mhm.
We're coming to an end of the program, so we'll start off with
Thank you.
we'll start off with Ashley. I want you ladies to just if the people who are watching right now they want to contact you any kind of way, how can they contact you? Start with Ashley.
Absolutely. So you can contact me. The website for Pieces of a Dream is piecesofadream.org. That's pieces like puzzle pieces. We can be reached via email at info@piecesofadream.org. You can find us on all the social platforms as Pieces of a Dream Dance.
Pieces-of-a-dream.org. She has a
Encourage you
dance
all
school.
to please come and check out a workshop that I'm doing, as I said, this Saturday with the Delaware Historical Society. We're very excited to be partnering with the Mitchell Center and presenting a work. It is open to the public. There is a registration fee or suggested donation, but it's very affordable, and we will be doing movement, but it is not for dancers specifically. It is just everybody is the dancer. Everybody moves. You move through space. It is the first thing that you do as an infant is you start to move your body on purpose. Want to reaffirm and reconnect with that idea. So if anyone is available, we're doing part 1 this Saturday and part 2 on Saturday the 20th of February. And there's more information about that on the Delaware Historical Society page as well, or Delaware History Museum page, as well as Piece of Dreams page.
Mhm.
All right, Kimberly, you got 1,000 people looking at you. You want to know how
You love calling me Kimberly. We're gonna talk about this after we get
so respect.
okay, well, it's okay. I have a Kimberly page somewhere. So if you go into Google, just type in KYMBRANCH. You can find me on YouTube as well under KYMBRANCH. You can find me on Instagram under @KYMBRANCH. Facebook, KYMBRANCH. Plain and simple. That's me. And you'll find everything else about me, the other pages that I have through that one source.
Okay.
But thank you for having me, and nice meeting you, lady.
Okay, sweet friend, how can they contact you?
Everything is Sweet Franchon on any social media platform, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, except for TikTok. I'm on there, but I don't really. Spell like the hotel, SUITE, and my first name, FRANCHON. Sweet Franchon, all one word, on all social platforms. I ask that, the next thing you can expect to see from me is I will be doing more on YouTube, and I'm creating some membership classes for artists and lovers of art. And those, as Ashley does with dance, want to tap into their creative selves. So I'm doing some membership packages for that, and mostly YouTube. Where I, as Ashley shared, also, I'm embracing it. Period. I'm a mature Black woman, and I want us to talk about our experiences and what we can do, not only to share and what you wish someone had told you, to share with our younger sisters, but more importantly, how to age gracefully and with love and acceptance of who we are and what we can still contribute to society.
That's right.
Like we're invisible. We are not invisible, and our voice is still important. And so I'm hoping mature Black women will join me and we can have some great dialogue. And that's going to be launched on the YouTube channel on my birthday, March 17th.
Oh, Omar, can I just throw in there real quick? Basically, like you said, Franchon, it's never too late. And that's what I learned about me at this point in time in my life. However, I don't know if we had an opportunity to give shout outs to some of our beautiful Black actresses like Angela Bassett. And, we did talk about Cicely Tyson, but that Angela Bassett and Taraji B. Henson and, those women that's out there doing it, because I want to act too one day. So, those are some of the people that inspire me. I don't know who inspired you. And I used to watch Fame too all the time with Leroy and everybody. I'm done. Thank you.
All right, ladies, I'd like to thank you, all three of you, for tuning in and being a guest on tonight's show. Wonderful show. Thank you all once again, and thank those who are watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, peace. Take care,
Peace.
ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. See y'all.